If this video crossed your path, perhaps you haven't noticed yet, but something inside you has already changed. And it wasn't a small change. It was a shift in your field, a silent, yet profound shift in the way you observe your own reality. It wasn't the algorithm, it wasn't coincidence, it was a vibrational response, an echo between what you emit and what the universe returns. There are moments when life seems to follow an invisible flow, as if everything were just an automatic repetition of old patterns. But at some point, without warning, something inside you moves. And when that happens, the field around you begins to reorganize. Perhaps you're already feeling a strange mixture of restlessness and curiosity, a subtle discomfort, as if you're on the brink of something you still can't name. This is the first evidence that your level of observation has begun to change. Today you'll understand exactly what happens when your consciousness makes that leap. Why forgotten emotions resurface, why synchronicities start to intensify, and why, even without any major external change, your perception of everything begins to transform. This is not just another piece of content. It's an invitation to look at your reality from a place you may never have accessed before. When the level of observation changes, it's not just a different thought that occurs. It's a frequency break, a silent yet profound realignment in the informational field that connects your mind to the invisible fabric of reality. What once went unnoticed now begins to be seen, and this has an immediate impact, even if it's still not visible to the eyes. Everything in the universe responds to observation. This isn't a spiritual metaphor, it's a quantum principle. The way you observe a situation, a feeling, or even yourself, alters the energetic behavior of that experience. Until yesterday, you viewed life from a field of automatic conditioning. Your emotional responses were pre-programmed, your choices often reactive. The world seemed to be just a static reflection of what you believed about it. But when your internal observation changes, the field senses it. Your energetic body begins to emit a different frequency. It could be a lightness that arises for no apparent reason, a desire for silence, an impulse to look inward, and at the same time, a strange feeling that something big is about to happen, even if you can't quite explain what. This process is subtle, but undeniable. You may notice that your internal dialogues sound different. Thoughts that once passed as background noise now catch your attention. Old beliefs begin to seem too small for what you feel is awakening within you. This is the first layer of change, expanded perception. But along with this expansion comes increased sensitivity. It's as if your emotional skin has become thinner. Things that didn't affect you before now seem to pierce through. Situations you once ignored now move you more intensely. And here's a truth few people tell you. This rise in sensitivity is a clear sign that your consciousness is shifting out of autopilot. Your energetic field is reconfiguring the filters through which you interpret reality. This means that some old emotions which were dormant may begin to emerge, not because you're regressing, but because now there is a new space of observation capable of processing what was previously avoided. It's common to feel confusion during this phase. One day you feel light, the next deeply emotional. One moment you feel hope, the next existential doubt. This happens because the leap in observation doesn't come with a manual. It comes with an invitation to remain present, even when everything inside you asks to revert to old defensive patterns. Perhaps you've started noticing synchronicities happening more frequently. Small signs, unexpected encounters, messages that seem to answer exactly what you were thinking. This is not coincidence. It's a direct effect of your new frequency of attention. Reality, like an intelligent mirror, begins to respond to your new way of looking. And you know what makes this moment even more challenging? It's that the change hasn't yet produced concrete effects in the physical world. The field has already changed, but matter is still reacting to the old command. There is a small delay between your new observation and the vibrational collapse that will reconfigure the events around you. This is where many people give up. They mistake the absence of external evidence for a lack of internal transformation. But the truth is, Energetically, the process has already begun. With every thought you observe without judgment, every emotion you feel without rejection, every conscious choice not to react in the old way, you are consolidating the new frequency, and the field senses it. It responds, first, with subtle signs, then, with events that seem to test your internal stability. But that is the next step. For now, the most important thing is that you recognize the simple fact that you're here. Listening to these words is already a sign that you've crossed an invisible threshold. Your observation is no longer the same, and that has already changed everything. When the level of observation rises, what was once dormant begins to take shape. It's not just that you perceive more, it's that you begin to see what was always there, but your mind, out of protection or limitation, insisted on not seeing. The increase in perception is, at the same time, a gift and an invitation to courage. Because the more you observe, the more you find, and not everything you find is light. This is the subtle trap of the intermediate level of consciousness. A vibrational space where you are no longer the unconscious person you were before, but you haven't yet become the fully integrated and confident version you feel you can be. It's like being between two worlds. You see the old patterns more clearly, but you still don't know exactly how to move outside them. And this interval, this transition space, is the fertile ground where the deepest doubts, fears, and insecurities are born. Perhaps you've started noticing thoughts that once went unnoticed, like little internal voices questioning every move, every choice, every emotion. Perhaps the emotions that were once suppressed are now emerging unexpectedly, more intensely than ever. Anger, sadness, fear, everything seems more alive. And as uncomfortable as this is, it's a clear sign of progress. It's not a setback. It's revelation. The mind, accustomed to operating in cycles of protection, tries to react as it always did, seeking quick explanations, trying to control emotional flow, looking for external guarantees that everything is okay. But the truth is, this new space of observation doesn't offer the old guarantees. It asks for presence. It demands that you remain, even in the face of inner chaos. It's natural to feel that the field has become more unstable. Things seem out of place. Relationships become more sensitive. Conversations that were once neutral now affect you in a different way. Small conflicts carry unexpected emotional weight. Everything seems more intense. But what's happening is not an increase in the problem. It's an increase in your capacity to perceive what was always there. Your consciousness is doing a vibrational cleanup. It's illuminating the corners where before there was only shadow. And with this new light comes the responsibility not to react as before. Each time doubt arises, each moment that fear wants to paralyze you, remember one thing: feeling all this is part of the expansion process. It's not a mistake. It's not a sign that you're failing. It's a sign that you are, in fact, crossing over to the other side. It's in this phase that many people feel like turning back, to once again seek old defense mechanisms, distraction, rationalization, denial. But that path no longer offers the same relief. What once served as anesthesia now sounds empty, because consciousness, once expanded, does not return to its old size. You'll notice that your own body begins to respond differently. Physical sensations of tightness, heat, sudden lightness, as if the nervous system is recalibrating with each new emotional perception. This is to be expected. It's as if your energetic field is learning to sustain a new frequency, albeit for now, with some instability. And here comes perhaps one of the hardest truths to accept in this process. The discomfort you feel now is exactly what frees you. It's the sign that the cycle of internal dormancy is being broken, that your mind is being called out of automatic reaction and into a more conscious state of choice. Yes, fear will try to convince you that it's safer to return to the old. Yes, doubt will make you question whether all this makes sense. But if you take a deep breath and just observe without trying to run away, you'll notice something. Even with all this intensity, there is a space within you that remains untouched, a center of silence, where everything just is. This is your anchoring point. This is where you will begin to choose differently, because now, you're not just feeling, you're observing, and this simple change is already rewriting your field. When your level of observation changes, the field around you begins to reorganize. But this reorganization doesn't happen in a linear way. It comes in waves, and each of these waves brings a test. Not a test in the moral or punitive sense, but a silent invitation for you to consciously choose whether you're truly ready to sustain the new frequency you've begun to access. The breaking of invisible cycles is one of the most delicate moments of this process. For years, you reacted to the same stimuli, almost automatically. The situations repeated, the emotions intensified. But deep down, everything followed an unconscious script. Now, with the field vibrating differently, life begins to create small scenarios where you need to choose, repeat, or rewrite. Perhaps you've already noticed. Arguments you swore were resolved return. Emotional triggers you thought you had overcome resurface. People who reflect exactly what you're trying to heal cross your path again. This is not coincidence. It's the field offering you a real chance for a conscious response. And this is the point where the universe watches, not with judgment, but with vibrational attention. Every choice you make, even the subtlest, is sending a new command to the quantum field. If, when faced with an old conflict, you react the old way, the field understands that you're still vibrating in the previous pattern. If you manage, even for just a second, to pause, breathe, and observe before reacting, the field registers this change, and over time, it begins to return different responses. This process can be unsettling. You may feel as if you're being pushed to emotional limits you've never explored. It may seem that the more you try to align, the more the external world provokes you. But the truth is, the universe is not punishing you. It's simply reflecting, with absolute fidelity, the real stage of your frequency. This is where most people give up, because the field's tests don't come in the form of great epic challenges, but in details, in small conversations, in feelings that arise out of nowhere, in thoughts that try to pull you back into old cycles. And the question that keeps echoing is always the same. How long will you choose to react the same way? Perhaps over these past few days, you've already experienced situations like this. A comment from someone that made you lose emotional balance. A memory that brought a wave of guilt or shame. A sudden urge to run, to give up, or to return to the familiar. If this is happening, know that you're not alone. This is part of the process of breaking invisible cycles. And now I want to extend an invitation. If any part of this process is already happening in your life, if you can recognize the subtle tests the field has been placing on your path, I want you to pause for a moment, take a deep breath, and leave a comment below with the phrase, "I recognize the test, and I choose to rewrite." This simple action, this small gesture of presence, is already a way to anchor your new vibrational choice. Because every time you take a conscious step, even if it's just by writing a sentence, you're signaling to the field that you're ready for the next level. There's a moment, almost imperceptible, when everything starts to change. Not because the outside world suddenly transformed, but because the way you interpret, feel, and react to reality stops following the old scripts. This is the turning point. The silent transition between perception and reprogramming. Until now, you've been observing. You've felt the emotional waves, recognized the tests, faced the triggers. You've taken deep breaths, chosen to observe instead of react. And even if at times you still fell back into old patterns, something inside you is no longer the same, because now your observation is conscious. And when observation becomes conscious, it starts to reshape the field. The change at this stage is subtle. It doesn't shout, it doesn't make a fuss, but it is real. You begin to notice that when facing the same situations that used to bring you down, something in you remains standing. The emotions still arise, but they don't drag you with the same force. The negative thought still appears, but you already recognize it as just a thought, not an absolute truth. This is the beginning of vibrational reprogramming, the point where your nervous system, your energetic field, and your subconscious mind begin to work together in a new frequency. Not because you forced it, but because you sustained the new observation long enough for it to become a natural choice. It's at this moment that the external reality, even without major visible signs, begins to respond differently. Conversations change in tone. People around you seem to react in new ways. What once generated conflict now finds a space of neutrality. Synchronicities become more evident, like little messages from the field, confirming that the path is opening. Perhaps you'll notice that your automatic thoughts start to decrease in intensity. That inner voice, always ready to criticize or bring you down, now sounds more distant, almost like an echo from an old version of you. This is one of the first clear signs that the reprogramming has begun. Because when your observation changes, your internal dialogue pattern changes too. Another evidence of this turning point is the sense of inner power. Not the kind of power that controls, but the power that observes with presence. It's the awareness that you can choose, at every moment, how to respond to what life brings. Even when the response is still imperfect, the simple awareness that there is a choice is already transformation. The quantum field, at this stage, starts to mirror your new vibration more quickly. Small events that once seemed like chance now start to have a bigger meaning. You meet the right people at the right time. You receive messages that answer exactly the questions you've been carrying in silence. You feel, even with lingering doubts, that a new order is forming from the inside out. But it's important to remember, this turning point is not a final destination. It's a new stage, a new beginning, and the field will continue to invite you every day to sustain this new way of observing. Because true reprogramming doesn't happen in a moment of euphoria, but in the silent consistency of small daily choices. Perhaps what once left you paralyzed now only makes you breathe more deeply. Perhaps the people who once destabilized you now seem like mere mirrors, showing how far you've already come. And perhaps, for the first time in a long time, you'll start to feel that you're truly co-creating your reality, not by force, but by resonance. This is the difference between living in reaction mode and living in conscious creation mode. When your observation stabilizes, the field obeys, because reality has always been and will always be just a reflection of how you choose to look at it. In the coming weeks, something subtle, yet deeply transformative, will begin to happen around you. Don't expect big external signs right away. The field works in layers, and the first real transformation always happens within. But if you stay attentive, you'll notice 3 changes that leave no doubt. Your observation has already begun to rewrite your reality. The first transformation comes in the silence of the mind, that internal voice, which once felt like an uninterrupted broadcast of criticism, doubt, and judgment, starts to lose strength. The mental dialogues diminish, not because you repress them, but because your new frequency of observation no longer feeds the same narratives. Suddenly, you find yourself in moments of spontaneous silence, not an empty silence, but one full of presence. It's as if your mind is finally beginning to understand that it doesn't need to protect you from everything all the time anymore. Safety now comes from somewhere else, from your ability to observe without getting lost in old stories. Along with this silence, you'll notice a change in your emotional responses. Situations that used to destabilize you easily now trigger a different reaction. It's not that you've stopped feeling, but your emotional recovery time shortens. What used to throw you off for days now passes like a wave, and you return to your center more quickly. It's as if your nervous system is learning to sustain a new vibration of neutrality and presence. This is one of the clearest signs that your field is already reconfiguring. The second shift comes from the outside, but it's a direct extension of your internal change. Synchronicities increase. Small coincidences begin to happen more frequently. You think of someone, and that person reaches out. You feel a doubt, and an unexpected answer appears in a conversation, a book, a video. Connections become quicker, as if the universe is more attuned to your intentions. But the truth is, it's not the universe that changed. It was your emission frequency, your ability to send clear signals to the field, that finally aligned. This increase in synchronicities may come with a new feeling, a strange mix of trust and curiosity. You begin to realize you're no longer moving alone. There is a greater intelligence, a network of events that's responding to your new vibrational commands. And the more you observe, the more reality starts delivering real-time answers. The third sign, perhaps the most subtle, yet also the most powerful, is the growing sense of emotional neutrality. Don't confuse this with apathy. It's not a lack of emotion, it's presence. A deep understanding that you can feel everything without being controlled by anything. Joy, sadness, fear, love, all flow through you, but you remain in a state of stable observation. This neutrality gives you power, because it's precisely from it that the ability to choose is born. To choose where to place your attention, to choose which frequency to sustain, to choose how to respond to what life brings. This is true liberation. It's not about controlling the external world. It's about no longer being controlled by the chaotic flow of internal and external stimuli. In the coming weeks, watch for these signs: the silence of the mind, the increase in synchronicities, emotional neutrality. Each one is confirmation that your new observation is indeed rewriting the field around you, not in a magical and instant way, but in a real, consistent, and irreversible way. If you allow yourself, you'll notice that the world around you no longer carries the same weight, that situations come, pass, and you remain. That life, no matter how challenging, starts to flow from a new place, a place where you're no longer just reactive, but a conscious co-creator. Getting here wasn't an easy process. Every leap in consciousness came with internal choices, confrontations with parts of yourself you preferred to avoid, silences that once felt unbearable, but have now become portals of understanding. The challenge now is to remain, to sustain this new state of observation without slipping, without falling back into the old cycles that drained you so much in the past. The first step to maintaining this new state is not to control, but to allow. There's a natural tendency of the mind to want to turn every new awareness into a new rule, a new method, a new emotional safety strategy. But maintaining this state doesn't come from effort. It's born from the conscious repetition of small moments of presence. It's not about doing more, it's about feeling more, about taking a deep breath before reacting, about observing discomfort before creating a judgment about it. You'll notice that old patterns will try to return, not out of malice, not from a lack of evolution, but because they're part of a neurological and energetic record that's been reinforced for years. The body will seek the familiar. The field will test your consistency. And in these moments, your greatest tool is not resistance, but conscious acceptance. Observe when the old cycle starts to form. Notice the first emotional signs, and choose, gently, a different response. Maintaining the new state of observation also requires you to let go of the need for external validation. Not everyone around you will notice your change right away. Perhaps for a while, the world will continue treating you as your old version. Not because the universe is punishing you, but because reality responds to the dominant energy pattern you sustain over time. Internal transformation always comes first. External manifestation is just a consequence. There will be days when you'll feel like you're progressing, and others when you'll feel stagnant. This is part of your field's vibrational recalibration. Don't interpret the down moments as setbacks. They're just a pause to integrate what is already awakened. It's precisely in these moments that your conscious observation makes all the difference. Instead of falling into autopilot, ask yourself, what story am I about to repeat? What emotion is trying to pull me back? What choice can I make now that represents my new frequency? Cultivating presence rituals can help, not because they're magical, but because they create emotional and energetic anchors. A moment of deep breathing upon waking, a moment of silence before sleeping, a conscious choice to respond with love, even when the mind demands defense. These small actions create new neurological pathways and reinforce the new vibrational identity you're building. Another essential point is not to run from emotional relapses. If one day you feel fear, sadness, or doubt, embrace it. The problem was never feeling. The problem has always been unconsciously reacting to what you feel. Now, with your new observation, even sadness can be a portal for expansion. Even fear can be an opportunity to choose differently. And if, at any point, you notice yourself slipping back into the old, stop, breathe. Remember everything you've already gone through to get here. Recall the conscious choices that brought you to this new space of perception. You're not starting from zero. Every small advance you've made remains recorded in your field. The most important thing now is to understand that maintaining this new state is not a straight line. It's a flow, a cycle of expansion, integration, and new expansion. And the more you practice presence, the easier it becomes to sustain. Over time, what today requires effort will become natural. You'll look at situations that once paralyzed you and realize that your response has changed, that the old pattern simply no longer fits. This is the true sign that you're not just accessing a new frequency, but living in it, maintaining, sustaining, rewriting in real time. We've reached the end of our journey, and perhaps now everything makes a little more sense. Every discomfort, every doubt, every silence were just parts of the process of realigning your consciousness with your true frequency. You've crossed invisible portals, faced your own mirrors, and from now on, the field already recognizes that something in you has changed. It's no longer about seeking external answers. It's about sustaining presence and trusting the movement that has already begun. If these words touch something deep within you, if you feel that in some way you've crossed a cycle with me in this video, leave in the comments, "I finished, and I choose to remain." That way, I'll know you made it to the end, and that you're ready for the next level of this journey.